Hello, Caroline here. Did you know that healthy living soil like this is alive? And in this hand that I'm holding here, there is billions, if not trillions, of microorganisms that we cannot see living in the soil, and these can be your garden helpers and help you to grow food and to grow an abundant garden much more easily if we look after them. So it's really easy to forget that soil is actually alive, and our modern industrial farming has created in our farms dead soil. It's dead. There is not any life left in it because of the chemicals, the herbicides, and the artificial fertilizers that they've been putting on the soil. Now, if you're growing at home, you can create abundant, healthy living soil, and that means that your plants are going to have higher levels of nutrients in them. So the nutrients in farmed produce has gone down and down and down and down since the 1950s when they started testing it. That's because the soil has been depleted. Now, I imagine the soil to be a bit like our guts. So when we have like healthy gut flora and everything's just like really healthy down there and alive, like all of these healthy good bacteria that we now know about, then we are full of energy and vitality. We don't get ill, and we resist like diseases and getting ill, basically. So that is the same with our plants. So when our soil is healthy and full of microorganisms, our plants resist attacks. They resist slug damage. They're less likely to get diseases, and they grow bigger and more abundantly. So the great thing about soil is that we don't need to understand exactly how it works. Like, we don't need to know what those microorganisms are or like how they work. We just need to know, just like we don't need to know in our guts, like what the bacteria is in our guts. We just need to know how to keep them happy. And the same thing with the soil. We just need to know how to keep our soil happy, the soil life happy, and then our plants will grow abundantly. So how do we do that? Well, my method is, I call it feed them and leave them. So as happens in nature, because I always try and follow what happens in nature as closely as possible, the soil is fed by dead plants composting down on top of the soil, protecting the soil, and rotting down to feed the soil. And those dead plants and also the dead life that rots down on top of the soil feeds the microorganisms. Okay, and we can do that in our gardens by adding compost to the top of the soil, or just allowing leaves, dead plants to rot down right where they are on top of our soil. So depending on the situation, you can do either of those things. And secondly, what I like to do is leave them alone. So that is no dig or minimum tillage. I stopped digging about 18 years ago, and it's been absolutely fantastic for my garden. Straight away, we noticed, because I was on an allotment then and no one around me was digging, because 18 years ago most people never heard of no dig and they thought we're absolutely crazy. But we noticed straight away that our soil structure was so much better, and it held more moisture in the summer. Our little seedlings didn't die, even if we didn't water them that often. And in the winter, it drained more moisture. And that's because we left that web of life to get on with it, basically. We left it alone. So when I started no dig, we didn't have a load of compost. We just added the same amount of compost that we normally would have done to our allotment, just a little, about a centimetre or something, and we just didn't dig it. We just didn't turn it over. So that is how to keep the soil life in your garden happy. And if you're thinking about wildlife gardening, you know, protect the life in your soil as well as the life above the soil. And that is going to mean that your gardening is going to be so much easier, and you can grow so much more abundant food. So if you just remember one thing, just remember that the soil is alive. Okay, catch you soon.